It just lit. Bro, what is
Gio, what are you doing?
oh my gosh, what am I watching right now?
Don't worry, I wasn't going to clickbait you. This video was supposed to be about Rainbow Six Siege and video games being fun. In my frustration of modern games, and mostly because Siege is dying, I found myself disappointed in the games that I once enjoyed. I still love Siege, but I'm really bad and don't always have the drive to get better in such a competitive environment. This made me return to a game that I am good at and which I regard as one of my favorite games of all time. That game is Need for Speed Most Wanted, a game that helped define a franchise, became the highest selling game in said franchise, and to this day, still praised and appreciated by the racing game community. From its excellent driving, thrilling pursuits, beautiful graphics and art style, and charming story,
This game is the embodiment of Need for Speed itself.
but that begs the question, is Most Wanted a perfect game? On the internet, I find people who want a Most Wanted 2 or a Most Wanted remaster. These people seem to be stuck in the past, outright refusing to accept any new game that is not a replica of Most Wanted. Fasten your seatbelts, y'all. This is for you die-hard, rose-tinted, nostalgic 2000s Need for Speed fans who hate every single game that wasn't developed by Black Box. And by the way, don't even think I'm claiming Most Wanted is a bad game. No, not even close. However, with years of experience and hindsight, I come to terms with this game being less than perfect. Yet, many people claim that Most Wanted is a brilliant masterpiece with no flaws. I want to share with y'all why I don't think this is the case, hoping we can agree that Most Wanted isn't the perfect game we all thought it was. The footage you're about to see are the recordings of 2 playthroughs, both of which have different mods. I want to shout out the widescreen and extra options developers for gameplay tweaks that make me enjoy Most Wanted even more. On my second playthrough, I installed mods that imported the Xbox 360 graphics, which is the best looking version of Most Wanted. To the developers of these mods, you have my thanks for making me and other people see the definitive version of this game. I love these mods, and I can't stand playing the PS2 version anymore. Alright, before I start the video properly, I want to tell you my experience with this game. If I remember correctly, Most Wanted is the 3rd video game I have ever played. I played it on the PS2 alongside my first game, its rival, Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix. You wanna know the second game I've ever played? Kingdom Hearts 2. What? Interestingly enough, I actually beat Most Wanted before MC3 because when MC3 gives you the prompt to open the map with the select button, I got scared of the game and turned off my PS2. Yeah, we all have those moments where something so innocent scares us as a kid. I then put in the Most Wanted disc and was somehow not scared of this game. Initially, I was scared when I started playing. On my first playthrough, I had no idea what to expect. I used to shiver in my timbers when the camera zooms in on a cop spying you alongside the world flashing blue. In terms of gameplay though, wow. I used to be so bad at this game. I would always need to upgrade my car after every boss because I would lose a lot. I even got one of my cars impounded. But eventually, just like everyone else, I would buy the Carrera GT, upgrade it, and use it to beat Razor. I then proceeded to do the challenge series, which took me a few weeks to beat. Not only were the events difficult for me, it didn't help the fact that the PS2 load times took a while. Having those cop sirens stare into my soul was not a pleasant experience. You may be wondering why I'm mentioning all of this. Well, experiencing a game for the first time is amazing. You cannot beat that feeling. For myself, for many people, maybe for you, the viewer, Most Wanted holds a special place in our hearts. The nostalgia really does hook us. Even with what I'm gonna say in this video, and trust me, I have a few hot takes. I have some biases towards this game. If I'm gonna answer whether or not Most Wanted is a perfect game, I have to at least acknowledge and be honest with you about these biases. Not only am I being honest with you, I'm going to be honest with myself about how I feel about this game. If you're not convinced I like this game, here's more proof of how much I love Most Wanted. I've officially beaten Most Wanted 9 times. All career races, all challenge series events, 100%. Never 100% of the rap sheet though. The amount of infractions you have to do is ridiculous. 5 of those playthroughs I played without getting busted, although I will be honest, maybe 1 impound marker in at most 2 playthroughs. I've also done 1 playthrough without using nitrous and speedbreaker. The very last playthrough I did before this video was in 2017. What happened to me playing Most Wanted since then? Other games, including finally being Underground 1 and 2 in 2018, but I don't remember specifically. Let me put it to you like this. Every Need for Speed game that isn't part of the classic era or the Syndicate games, I've only beaten twice. Trust me, my favorite games in the series are different than what the average Black Box fan has. When I tell you I love Most Wanted, I really do. So please, don't take this as me grabbing a hot take because I want to be different. I'm just tired of seeing people think that there's nothing wrong with this game. Is Most Wanted really an all-time classic, or is it worse than what we remember? I want to go over the story because honestly, I have to. The beginning of the career mode really sets a tone for this game. You see the beautiful BMW M3 you are driving, pulling up to this guy named Razor, who drives the ugliest Mustang I've ever seen in my life. And right away, you're already experiencing one of the best parts about Most Wanted. It's cheesy, limited but fun story.
Hey, where's your fancy ride?
You meet the characters quickly. Mia, the sweet chick, and Sergeant Crocodile, who drives a Corvette police unit and is your first sign of this game's general tone. It takes itself seriously, but man, is everything so hammy. You get to meet Razor's buddies Ronnie, the pretty fly for a white guy, and Toru. Through Ronnie, you learn that Razor is the number 15 guy on the blacklist, a bunch of criminals who love racing and messing with the cops. And of course, don't forget about Rog. Rog is actually pretty forgettable, but when you play Most Wanted, you get to enjoy his presence. The fact that he calls you out for playing the underground games is great.
Well, look what the underground let loose. Let's see how good you do in the daylight.
Wait, Rog, there was daylight in Underground 2. Uh-oh, Rog hasn't played Underground 2. He's one of those Need for Speed fans. In the prologue races, it's mostly quiet, save for your car, of course, and the ambience. When you get into Pursuit, you hear Paul Linford's beautiful soundtrack until you escape, and silence fills your ears again. In those seconds when you hear the music, there's a sort of dread in the cop chases, a sign of things to come. Once you finish a race, you get a beautiful Polaroid of your BMW crossing the finish line. Ooh, I love that sound effect. You end the prologue with the race with Razor, this time in full control until you finally see your car stop working. From there, you almost end up in jail, but because you had no car, you weren't locked up. What a coincidence. Mia takes you to a car lot where you can buy a starter car. Once you reach the safe house, she tells you that Razor is number 1 on the blacklist only because he used your car. I would like to remind people that Razor made fun of this BMW. At this point, you gotta start from the bottom. In order to challenge Sunny, the number 15 guy on the blacklist, you have to do 3 races, 4 pursuit milestones, and collect enough bounty. After that, you race with Sunny one-on-one. Once you beat him, you move up as number 15 guy on the blacklist. You'll do this with the other members as well, all of whom have increasing expectations and difficulty. But they won't stop you from reaching Razor, taking your car back from him, and becoming the Most Wanted. No matter how much you hate an individual Need for Speed game, you have to admit this much. Every Need for Speed game has an identity. Presentation is what matters the most. I've genuinely seen some Redditors claim that Most Wanted has an amazing story. What? But I'm not gonna act like I don't know what they're talking about, because I do know why they are thinking that. It's not that Most Wanted has an amazing story, because it's as cookie cutter as it gets. What makes Most Wanted's story so charming is the acting and the green screens. Oh my goodness, it's glorious. Why are Razor and Cross the most notable villains of Need for Speed? Because they're believable for who they are. They're not written with cringe writing that plagues Western entertainment nowadays.
Oh god, it's you.
Nova, have we met?
No, these characters are straightforward. They project a toughness that's supposed to be intimidating, but it's just so cute. Razor's an ass, yet his villainous breakdowns in the voice messages in the final cutscene makes me smile. As for Cross, his condescending tone is great. Really makes sense that this guy creates a pinstripe on a BMW M3 GTR. Also, come on, who could forget this?
Everyone?
There's a similar moment in the game where you just go, wow, this is that type of game. And oh man, come on, this? That's adorable. The poster girl of Most Wanted, Mia, is a cool character. I'm not gonna lie, when I was a kid, the plot twist that she was actually a cop got me. Then I kept replaying the game and realized in the voice messages, it's so obvious that she's a cop. The fact that she has a nice tone,
Hey, what's up? It's Mia.
helps you and comes from the highest selling game in the series, she's the Need for Speed girl. If there is one character I wish we did see in person, it's Rog. He has this sort of authentic down-to-earth tone and brotherhood mentality. It's so great that I wish we got more of his personality type in games. He didn't deserve to be just a voice in our phones though. Most Wanted's simple depth and characterization ends there though, as the same can't be said for the other blacklist racers. Outside of Razor and his 2 friends, the only 2 people we interact with are Victor and Earl, and they're only heard in their respective voice messages. If this game had more development time, we could have had more cutscenes featuring these characters. Maybe even in-game models and voice lines. Unfortunately, we only have their blacklist videos, consisting of them doing 3 poses and then showing off their car and driving. Our imaginations run wild when we think about what kind of personalities they might have. And maybe, that's all we need. A missed opportunity, but I guess there was no priority for each and every single Blacklist member's characterization. Despite the repetitive gameplay, which I will talk about soon enough, you want to see the next Blacklist racer, and you want to put Racer in the dirt. And when you finally get your hands on the BMW, Mia is the one who gives you the keys and a chance to escape from the cops. The final pursuit is such a great way to end the career mode, the exclusive Heat Level 6, where cops in all corners of the map come for you. Luckily, Mia informs you of the old bridge. You drive to the area where the bulldozers and debris are magically gone, and when you make the final jump, there is no satisfying moment in any racing game that comes close to this. This cutscene alone is an award for finishing the game. Yes, I do enjoy Most Wanted's simplistic story. How could you not when these characters are disbelievable, with them really exposing that green screen all the time? I shouldn't think of Most Wanted's story so highly, but I honestly do, because for what we have, the presentation is that good. That being said, you're not playing Most Wanted for the story alone. Really, you're playing Most Wanted because of the Need for Speed Most Wanted is a racing game with cars, and you drive cars. Let's talk about the driving first. This game's driving, simply put, is amazing. Cars are responsive, but by default, they aren't twitchy. Your cars have so much grip. It doesn't matter how fast you are going, you will always turn so comfortably. You won't even need to touch the brakes on corners that in real life and in more realistic games, you would very much want to do. You can tune your car to drift, but you'll find that drifting is an afterthought considering how sluggish it feels when you force it. This isn't Midnight Club, Burnout, or even modern Need for Speed. Your focus is to achieve proper racing lines, while maneuvering around other racers, cops, and traffic. Cars may be easy to drive, but they don't all drive the same. Some cars are heavy and have some insane understeer. Some cars are lightweight and fun to drive, but suffer heavily during cop chases. Nice pun. Once you finally understand your own car, the map, and the movement of the AI, which is not very long considering what you're doing for the whole fucking game, driving is great. Always fun to come back to. I know, great driving in a driver game, but it really is that timeless. It makes you wonder why later games have worse handling. That being said, as Most Wanted has licensed cars, I want to tell you how I feel about the car list of this game. You don't need a lot of cars to make the game great, but it shouldn't have a car list full of filler that nobody wants to drive. And here's my first hot take of the video. Even as a kid, I always thought the car list in Most Wanted was lame. Even though I beat Most Wanted first, Midnight Club 3 really spoiled me for choice. Most Wanted starter cars are iconic, and the Golf is better, but there were like 7 starter cars in Midnight Club 3. A lot of the cars featured are worthy of being in this game, including the likes of the RX-7 and the beautiful Murcielago, but I still find it lackluster. I think I know what's irritating me. It's seeing a Fiat Punto, Monaro, and Clio in America. No, I'm kidding, that's really picky. It really is just seeing that depressing 32 car count. After watching beta/unused content videos, there were supposed to be a lot more cars in this game. This game was supposed to have 2 of the most iconic Nissans, the 350Z and R34 Skyline. A lot of these cars were supposed to be in the game. Some of them I believe are leftovers of Underground 2's development. Unused cop dialogue provides evidence of an Opel Speedster and a Mini. Of all things a Mini, those 2 would have been incredible to drive. And the game was supposed to have the Chrysler 300C, the definition of shitty American car, in a game with the perfect setting for it. Having no classic Dodges to smash cops with is so odd, but for me personally, the lack of Hondas and Ferraris hurts my soul to this day. Their reintroduction in later games only frustrates me even more. Quick Race, a feature that allows you to choose any event and car, has exclusive cars that you cannot drive in the career mode. These cars are the SL65, GT2, and C6R. There's only one classic muscle car in Most Wanted, the Camaro SS, but you can't drive it unless you have the Black Edition. Same goes for the M3 GTR. Here's the real kick in the nuts. In the career mode, the AI can drive that version of the M3 even if you don't have the Black Edition and the C6R. Fucking cheaters. I'm glad I'm able to mod Most Wanted, as it allows me to add cars I think the game should have had. Where the vanilla car list stands, ouch, it is seriously weak, dude. You know what the most disappointing thing about Most Wanted is? Customization. Not performance upgrades. I love it despite how simplistic it is. Being able to make any car competitive is amazing. I despise any Need for Speed game that does it otherwise. My only criticism is that the tuning sliders should have not only been in the pause menu. That is some weird game design. I rarely use it. There's little need for it unless you want to be specific in driving. The worst downgrade from its prequel and what its sequel will do better is visual customization. Did we seriously have artists sit down, sketch these kits, render them in a 3D environment, and say to themselves that these are beautiful designs? What the fuck? The body kits, spoilers, hoods, and roof scoops. Oh dear heavenly father, the roof scoops. They're so ugly. They ruined these beautiful cars and I hate it so much. The fact that you can't choose individual bumpers, side skirts, fenders, it's just terrible. The last game allowed you to, so why can't this game? The rim selection is okay. I'm a normie and go for BBS, but it's still very limited. Carbon was the first game to introduce a vinyl wrap editor, but why does Most Wanted not have the layer system from the underground games? Why is putting a number on my car a separate thing? Why do I have to go through every single position of decal and scroll through hundreds of brands just to put it on my car? If you like the customization in this game, good for you. No, honestly, good for you, really. I wish I could, but these options make me want to cry. Thank God there isn't a star rating in this game. Actually, there's a practical application for changing the appearance of your car. It lowers the heat level of your car. Don't do that. Building up heat is way too slow, and you're making the game longer than it already is to complete. Oh. Speak about making the game longer to complete. As fun as the driving is, Most Wanted's gameplay structure hasn't aged that well, to be honest. In Racevic's video on Most Wanted, he explains the game has shown its age in how the driving is utilized. Racing in Most Wanted is such a polarizing experience. In your first few races, the AI is unable to keep up with you. They are awfully slow while you drive an awfully slow car. At some point during the mid-game, no matter how upgraded your car is, rubber banding will always make them pull ahead of you. For the unaware, rubber banding refers to the opponents speeding up or slowing down depending on where you are in the race. What makes this feature so frustrating is that it's so obvious when it happens and confusing and boring when it doesn't. Sometimes, it doesn't feel like you're racing against street racers. They're more like rockets that are magnetically attached to the road. Though, the actual racer AI leaves a lot to be desired. If a racer sees a traffic car close to them, they swerve out the way and slow down tremendously. If there's a turn that can be cut by going onto large patches of grass, you can be sure they will spin out like dumbasses. What makes racing worse is that you only have 3 other opponents. I'm not sure if it's hardware limitations, but I'm gonna assume that's what it is. When the racing is good, it can be very exciting, but on recurring playthroughs, it is such a chore to experience. But you know what makes Most Wanted a chore to play? Repetitive racing. There are different race types in this game: sprint, circuit, lap knockout, speed trap, toll booth, and drag. While people say variety is the spice of life, these events suck ass. Sprint and circuit races are really basic. There's nothing special about them. They're just staples of racing games. While sprint races are short, some circuit races take forever to complete. Some events make you do 3 laps, even 4 sometimes. Who thought this was a good idea? It's so weird they balance events like this. The same issue happens with lap knockouts. If you keep up with the progression of performance parts, you will beat everybody so easily. Speed trap is actually an interesting game mode. Basically, you have to drive through certain locations quickly to add points. More speed means more points. There's a twist though. You are still recommended to be in first because crossing the finish line causes opponents to lose points continuously. This can guarantee you a win that would have not been possible in any other game mode. The inverse is true. If an opponent beats you to the finish line and you have more points and aren't that far behind, you can still win. This event type really demonstrates the rubber banding sometimes. It can be quite frustrating, but with an upgraded car and good use of nitrous, this event type is still easy. If you have done a no-nos run though, make sure you're using rubber banding in your favor, not against you, as the AI can get impossibly fast. Speed trap is an interesting game mode, and I wish it was in modern Need for Speed games. Toll booths are glorified time trials. Only problem is that toll booths are put in predetermined locations, making it easy to predict where you're going based on the amount of time given and thinking about the closest toll booth. These events can be just as mind-numbing as a circuit or lap knockout races. You can beat these times in under a minute, and so long as you don't make a grave mistake, you will beat them. Oh boy, drag races. Drag races are fucking awful. Not only were they banned in the underground games, it's even worse in this game. Most Wanted does not have a dedicated area for drag racing. The lane changing system cannot make up its mind. It is terrible. You make one tiny mistake and the race is all over. Whether it's an awkward road layout, a truck coming into an intersection, or AI always having perfect run times, drag races are so frustrating. Thankfully, you have Speed Breaker, the ability to slow down time to help position yourself. Unfortunately, Speed Breaker can only help you out for so long. You'll soon realize you slow down from moving an inch that your opponents will pass you. Speed Breaker also increases the mass of your car, allowing you to crash into traffic when you should have otherwise totaled. For me personally, I don't like Speed Breaker. Going off on a tangent, I never enjoyed the ability to slow down time in games. In real life, driving fast can cause some bad split-second decisions, which can cause some horrifying mistakes. Because of this perception, I find slowing down time in racing games to be a bit cheap. I cringe at people who rely on it, more so in using it to turn than against cops. Nonetheless, it's a feature of the game, and you can use it yourself. Some of you are about to argue that I shouldn't use Speed Breaker if I don't like it. Okay, 1, I've already done runs without NOS or Speed Breaker, and that was a decent challenge. And 2, it's just that I would have preferred if you suffer the consequences of bad driving, you know? Hashtag skill issue. That's just my opinion, but apparently a lot of people like Speed Breaker, and stock car runs are impossible without it, so I'll give it that. Oh, and another side note, crashing sucks, but not in the sense of losing drag races. That's bad too. The actual spectacle of crashing is bad. It's one thing that Most Wanted loses from the previous games. most of the time. In previous games, your car would turn into a ballerina, but I think it has to do with the combat against cops, but your car doesn't flip as acrobatically or at least naturally in this game. Your car slows down hard when you hit anything. For some reason, the mass and physics between the racers and traffic and the cops is different. You can barely budge traffic cars and racers. It feels like you're hitting a cement wall. Even when your car flips, your car will automatically try to balance itself out, leading to really awkward moments where the car does things you wouldn't believe it to do. While you're not supposed to crash in a racing game, I will kind of say that I do appreciate Most Wanted's crashes. Outside of drag racing, the game allows you to keep driving rather than punish you and make you stare at your mistake. I may seem a bit hypocritical considering what I just said about Speedbreaker, but in actuality, I just want to keep driving my car. Back on topic. Wow, I really described these race types like they were nothing. The driving physics are amazing, the races are hit or miss. Mostly miss though, but I know there have been times where I've been on the edge of my chair, except when AI rubber band at the last second. Cheating fucks. Now, imagine doing all of that all the time. Racing games are one of the most repetitive genres of video games. The enjoyment said repetition is driving fast, with beautiful racing lines, clutching a victory or smoking the pack, demonstrating your skill. But there's something really wrong when all you're doing are so many races over and over and over and over again. I don't know. Boring is a bit of an overstatement. I'm one of those people to always have something on their mind, so I don't necessarily get bored. But man, do I realize how much time I spend just coasting along, existing. To describe Most Wanted's races, they're amazing at best, mediocre at worst. But racing is only one half of the game. The other component is getting chased by the 5-0. Pursuits nearly fall into the boredom that plagues racing, but only for a short time. The general consensus of Most Wanted's pursuit system is that it's one of the best implemented in a video game. A lot of people, including myself, even believe it rivals Grand Theft Auto. So what makes the pursuit system really great? Well, escaping from cops out for your blood is thrilling. The lower heat level cops are pushovers. They're serviceable while you're in a slow car, but can be irritating when you're trying to get them to keep up with you. I'll give them some slack. They're purposely designed not to pressure you immediately. By the time you hit condition 3, things switch up real fast. The fake Crown Vics are replaced with Pontiac GTOs, which is just ridiculous. The cops will aggressively smash and pit you, form more roadblocks to slow you down, box you in, and send rhinos to ruin your day. By heat level 4, helicopters are sent to maintain visual contact with you, and indirectly throw dust into your face. Most prominently, of course, spike strips. These bad boys can catch you off guard, and unlike future games, once you cross one, you are done. With heat level 5, the use of Corvette cops show the insanity of American taxpayers. The police make sure you fight for every inch of your life.
Look, hey, I look forward to busting you. Again, and again, and again.
You wanna know what's the cherry on top? Complementing the chases are cop chatter. Oh my goodness. Why has no military shooter, GTA or GTA clone, let alone driving game, do intense, immersive radio communications better than Most Wanted yet? Not only do the cops tell you what they're going to do, but you can hear the emotion from the officers. For example, I always enjoy hearing the supervisor lady call out the correct color and car manufacturer. When you mess around for too long and you hear the distress call, you get to hear a rant about how much of a bitch you are to Rockport civilians. It shocks me that this is a 2005 game, given how amazing the pursuit system is implemented. The cop techniques are so great, doing pursuits never wears me down as fast as racing. And in my opinion, that's a good thing when you've been playing this game for so long. Not only is it fun in regards to how the cops fight you, but I love how you can fight back, and the consequences afterwards. Despite the insanity the cops throw at you, you're not helpless. The cops are really light, the only exceptions being the heavy rhinos and the helicopters. You can easily destroy the fake Crown Vics yourself, but with the GTOs and Corvettes, they're a bit more durable. That doesn't mean they're invincible, you just can't run them off the road when you're side by side with them. Adding on to this high-speed demolition derby are the abilities you have yourself. You might have NOS to get yourself out of tight situations, or Speedbreaker to help align yourself, or use both to smash into roadblocks to keep the momentum going. When you run out of Speedbreaker and NOS, you genuinely feel naked without them. It is terrifying knowing that you won't be able to break out when you're surrounded. You shouldn't rely on the abilities alone to take down cops. The best way to fight against the police are pursuit breakers. This really demonstrates the Hollywood and Most Wanted. Pursuit breakers are the epitome of Need for Speed uniqueness. The destruction of large structures usually totals police units. Just seeing the bounty number go up screams video game fun. It's such a criminal's dream to kill immobilized cops. Rockport must be a terrible place to live in. Actually, I still haven't talked about Rockport. Based on New York City, with its surrounding areas loosely based on the northeastern United States, this map is really memorable. As I've gotten older, I come to appreciate that Black Box didn't actually make a true city. They made a couple of tracks that connect with one another that happen to aesthetically look like a city. I especially love the worn out feeling the industrial areas have, but a lot of people hate the piss yellow filter as it melts all the areas for them. I actually really love it. Graphically, Most Wanted is a gorgeous game. Everything seems so soothing yet harmful in the sun's daylight. Although I feel like I'm playing a racing game version of Half-Life 2 with the lighting seen on the PC version. I grew up playing Most Wanted on the PS2 with component cables to a flat screen HD TV. I thought the game looked amazing. Even with the beautiful graphics, Rockport does fall off in a few places for me. Because Most Wanted's map is a giant circuit track, the map feels a bit too artificial. I can't explain this well, so bear with me. While driving the game, you can feel how fake some things are. Like the occasions where the road splits in two, off-road sections that were destined to be shortcuts, the two swerving U's that formed the college, hospital, and prison. Those are the only examples I could think off the top of my head. Look at Midnight Club cities. You could tell they're cities with intersections and traffic everywhere. Rockport has aged in how small the map is. I don't get this feeling while racing, but because of the nature of cop chases, you'll be going back and forth, going to every single corner of the map the longer the pursuits are. Compared to Payback's Fortune Valley and Heat's Palm City, which had some of the best map designs in an open world game, Rockport doesn't even come close. I mean, look how small downtown Rockport looks. It's sad. I mean, in terms of size, the Crew 1 beats it by a long run. I never felt the need to go into free roam and drive my car around in the black box games, something I will always do after school in the Crew 1. I'm serious. The worst part about this map for me are the amount of roads that you can't access. Because I am an avid enjoyer of the Crew 1, seeing all these roads hang above me as I drive past makes me angry. Even the turnpike, why was that not accessible? Yes, I know in World you could drive on it, but I'm talking about Most Wanted. Wanna know something sad? This game was supposed to feature an Alpine Burrow and the airport as tracks. You know how much better this game's variety would have been if they had drifting and a fucking straight line for drag racing? It'd be cool if they put the airport in free roam though. Could have drove around cops forever. Back on the topic of cop chases, once you successfully escape, milestones completed are checked off, and the total amount of bounties collected. And before I talk about those chores, however, I'll go the opposite direction and talk about getting busted. Getting arrested in this game, for lack of a better word, is harsh. The only fun thing about it is seeing your character getting arrested. If you get busted, all that time you spent in the pursuit was for nothing. You lose the heat gained on that car, which is the worst punishment in my opinion. Without an impound strike you win from a boss, you have to pay with cash and your car earns a strike. 3 strikes and your car is sent to the impound. This feature, while not hardcore or anything, is really cool. I wish Need for Speed Heat did this. It motivates you to get better at the game. The feeling of getting busted only makes getting away all the more satisfying. I'm good enough at the game that getting busted is a rarity for me. But only when I underestimate the cops or don't pay attention is when I get busted. Trust me, when I get busted, I really do feel like I lost. I've praised the pursuit system more than the racing, but that doesn't mean it's flawless. Though, my complaints are more nitpicky than actual complaints. First off, the cop AI is not impressive at all. Their use of numbers is to hide the fact that they are really stupid. They swerve a lot while driving, and if you go into an intersection, they'll likely turn and lose sight of you. Their bad padding is apparent with the well-known bus depot spot. Just park your car on this roof, and the cops are likely to never catch you. Really cheap. I don't like it, but I guess every game's gotta have its exploits. Something annoying with the lower heat level cops, when they can't keep up with you and you enter cooldown, chances are you won't find a new cop in time with the quick cooldowns. And that is really annoying considering that building up heat is really slow. What's worse is that if you are at a higher heat level, when backup is requested and you manage to evade and enter cooldown, the backup countdown always resets. This is even worse and can get really aggravating. But those are my only nitpicks with the pursuit system. My main problem with the system, just like the races, is how it's structured and the repetition of it. These milestones, man. It's like the racing, but they're even somehow less creative. Blacklist milestones include having to escape in a certain time limit, escape after a certain amount of time, touch this cop, touch that cop, touch this cop at a 90-degree angle. Now imagine doing this for the whole game. It's so lame. The fact that you have to do a certain amount of milestones. The fact that you'll do the same milestones, but only with the amount required increasing. The fact that you have to collect a certain amount of bounty. And that's just the cop stuff. You still have to do a certain amount of races. Did Black Box really have no other choice for this game? Especially since these chores are done for each and every single Blacklist member. This is the biggest flaw of Most Wanted. Repetition. As previously mentioned, racing games are inherently repetitive. This game, I'm gonna be honest with you, if I never played this game as a kid, or enjoyed racing games in general, Most Wanted to me would have been a boring game, or at least failed to interest me. Even if you disagree with me, understand my point that Most Wanted fails to refresh the player's mind. By the 4th hour, you've seen everything, and I get frustrated. Not because it's difficult, but because I keep convincing to myself that Most Wanted is my favorite game. And I have to prove it to myself by persevering through the long campaign. It's really true. I have to 100% this game every time. I just don't want to do such a disservice because I feel like I'm only finishing this game otherwise. But because of 15 bosses requiring a certain amount of races, milestones, and bounty, you'd want to complete them in the shortest amount of time because then you'll experience what's going on in my head. Why am I putting the effort to spend more time on one person's checklist when I'll have to do it again? The exciting racing and pursuits turn tedious really quickly, but they're glued together by the best driving of any racing game. Any racing game. Sometimes that's how I feel about this game. The only reason I'm enjoying Most Wanted is because of the driving alone. Everything else, to me, is just background noise. I play video games because I want to experience something unrealistic and fun while passing the time. But Most Wanted, man, I really do feel like a kid who plays Call of Duty 24/7. You know, that sluggish gamer feeling where like you've been sitting down all day. I feel like that, but only for like a couple of hours. I believe you now know what my answer is going to be with the question I proposed in the beginning and as the title of this video. Let me ask that question one more time. Is Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005 perfect? In my honest opinion, no. The game is far from perfect. But I want to ask another question. Is Most Wanted overrated? Yes, it is. My purpose for asking that is because I find an unhealthy amount of fans who will always cling on to this game. People will act like NPCs with default quotes like, "Why hasn't EA remastered Most Wanted?" or "Most Wanted is an absolutely perfect gem." Anything that is good is overrated in the eyes of some people. Don't take that personally. I'm more referring to the fans more so than the actual game itself. Just because I say Most Wanted isn't perfect and overrated doesn't mean it's automatically a bad game. For fuck's sake, grow up. I made this video and I still love this game and play it occasionally. The driving is so beautiful, but the structures of the racing and pursuits are executed so poorly. Just hammers that repetition into your mind. It is so unfortunate.
Shit, this cop's still on me.
The script was 22 pages. 22 pages for a game that I love. A game that I have been playing since I was a kid. Since growing up with terrible PS2 graphics and performance, I have completed many playthroughs and practically have seen everything this game has to offer. Years later, I am playing it on PC with the 360 graphics, widescreen fakes, and at 60 frames per second. I can now add mods to add cars and affect gameplay. This game means so much to me, yet most mods mechanics aren't exactly polished. This game is repetitive, and I don't think a person who isn't passionate about cars and racing games will at least enjoy this game. Hey, Redacted TV from the future here. Reflecting upon what I just said in this video, I realized that I sound a bit more bitter because I essentially played the game twice. No, not even essentially, I did play the game twice. I really saw like how repetitious Most Wanted can be. I'm sorry if I sound a bit salty. I didn't really mean it, but I still believe what I said in this video. Just some food for thought. We need to put down the rose-tinted glasses and stop claiming that Most Wanted is just absolutely perfect. I know there are people out there who are upset about what I just said, but here's my final words to you. Most Wanted still deserves the respect it has gathered over the years. Repeatedly in this video, I mentioned how good the driving is, and you know what? I guess that's what brings me back. So long as I can drive well, I can tolerate the racing and cop chases just fine. Maybe the true reason why this game lingers on in our heads is because we haven't had a game like Most Wanted. We haven't had a game where its characters are upfront in a non-cringy fashion, with its style outdated yet admired. And how long has it been since we had a racing game with good handling? You know, the make it or break it with driving games? So long as racing games become even more of a niche and fall into corporate disparity, Most Wanted remains as a reminder of a genre that only gets more disappointing each year. Can I really be mad at people who obsess over Most Wanted when they see leaks of Need for Speed 2022 and see how much of a clusterfuck of a game it is? We gotten close to a game being better than Most Wanted, yet it seems that we're still far off. In fact, we may never reach that point. How could I blame people for thinking so irrational about a game they've been playing since they were a kid? In reality, they're disappointed by newer things in life as they've gotten older, and maybe that's why Most Wanted is regarded so highly.